Right friends, welcome back to third mini capsule. This is on armed forces doctrine. In April, India released its second joint doctrine of Indian armed forces. In fact, in the second doctrine, this surgical strikes was embedded. Surgical strike is one type of sub-conventional operation and this was formally embedded. Please don't forget, last year, India through surgical strikes decimated terrorists on Pakistani land. So, from now on, they are among range of options at the military's disposal to respond to the terrorist attacks. So, this is the second such doctrine. So, India released second joint doctrine for Indian armed forces, right? If you look at two countries, let us take for example, India-Pakistan. India-Pakistan relations, because of Kashmir, there are several problems in the relations and there are also news reports that Pakistan is aiding and abetting terrorists from across the border. So, under these circumstances, if things go wrong, then what are the options? There are three options normally when you look at the relations between two countries. One is diplomatic options. Normally, under diplomatic options, various types of cultural exchanges will be stopped, recalling high commissioners or ambassadors. So, here this is diplomatic option. Then the second one is military option. Military option has got several doctrines. So, military option has to look at various doctrines which are employed by the country. The doctrines like surgical strike is one sub-conventional doctrine. No first use policy, that is one doctrine of military option because we do not use the nuclear methods against any other country. Our nuclear policy is only to act as a deterrence. That is the meaning of no first use policy. Then limited war, cold start. Cold start means making the armed forces in preparedness and when any eventuality comes, striking that particular area and coming back immediately, and before the world reacts, this action will be completed. So, that is cold start. So, there are several options. If you look at the military options between two countries, then economic options will be there, just like severing trade ties, at the same time withdrawing MFN status. If you look at Pakistan and India, then Indus Water Treaty, like that economic options will be there. So, if you look at two countries, because of various factors, the countries can go towards diplomatic options, military options, economic options. So, here surgical strikes is one option. It is part of sub-conventional warfare, right? Now, surgical strike, what is the meaning? Here, the meaning is it will cause only damage to the intended legitimate military target. Only one military target will be decimated, or you can say only legitimate military target or a terrorist camp may be decimated. So, the damage will be restricted to that particular area or particular entity only, and there will not be any damage to any other structure, and they will retreat back to the homeland immediately. So, that is the surgical strike, right? So, if you look at the new doctrine, so surgical strike meaning I explained, and subsequently if you look at the new doctrine, this is the second such doctrine since 2006. The scope of surgical strikes has been left open. That means it is not mentioned whether surgical strikes can be conducted within the country or beyond its borders, and probably the ambiguity is to send message to the neighborhood. And at the same time, it is pertinent to mention that in September 16, on terror camps along line of control, surgical strikes were conducted. So, please don't forget about the words surgical strikes as well as cold start. These words, understanding the meaning is very important. And if you look ahead, whether the sub-conventional operation leads to further escalation, here the doctrine notes that training of Special Operations Division for execution of precision tasks needs no reiteration. That means for conduct such type of operations, special operations division must be trained, right? And possibility of surgical strikes escalating into regular conventional warfare depends on several factors. The factors are given here. So, sometimes surgical strikes may escalate into conventional warfare, and under these circumstances it may take place. So, it all depends on these type of circumstances. The doctrine also reiterates the basic tenets of Indian nuclear doctrine: no first use. So, here one important point is no first use policy was reiterated. So, in the second doctrine for the armed forces, two important points: surgical strikes was legitimately included. Second point is no first use policy is continued. That means the nuclear arsenal will be used only as credible deterrence. We don't use on any country unless that country provokes us, right? So, this assumed significance because of several contradictory statements given in recent times. By moving away from nuclear no first use doctrine, right? What are the other features of the doctrine? Please go through this. 2-3 important points are there. As I have already told you, surgical strikes. Second point is no first use policy will be continued. Third important point is with regard to national military objectives, self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency in military appears to be quite far away. Even as on date also, we are dependent upon foreign countries for 70 to 80% of our needs. So, here national military objectives include self-sufficiency in defense equipment and technology through indigenization to achieve technological independence by 2035. Under these circumstances, and at the same time, if you look at the inefficiency of 9 public sector undertakings under defense ministry, it appears quite remote. Now, what is the ground reality? Government is dithering several policy decisions. First one is appointment of Chief of Defence Staff or CDS was struck up. Then formation of cyber, space and special force commands, and at the same time carving out inter-service theatre commands was also struck up. Then one defence industrial complex is to be established, that is also struck up, and the recent actions of the government does not reflect the ground reality as far as self-reliance is concerned. And another point is, as I have already told you, inefficiency of 9 defense public sector undertakings is another major problem. So, this is the ground reality as far as armed forces are concerned. So, a lot more needs to be done. So, in this lecture, we learnt about surgical strikes, then defense doctrine, what is meant by cold start, what are various options when you look at the countries like India and Pakistan, right? So, with this, let us conclude this mini capsule. Have a nice day. Thank you.